My name is Brian Carter. I'm 36 years old. For the past 10 years, I've worked in cybersecurity. You know, firewalls, encryption, digital vaults, that kind of stuff. My life's always been about building things that can't be broken into. Funny, right? Because the one breach I never saw coming didn't happen on a server. It happened right inside my home. I live in Austin, Texas. Used to live with my wife, Melissa. She was a UX designer, brilliant, creative, had a way of making even the most complicated apps feel effortless to use. We were together for 7 years. Married for 4. Built a startup together, just the two of us, from our living room. We dreamed of becoming that couple. You know the one? The success story, the tech power duo, building something meaningful together. And for a while, it really felt like we were. Until the day I came back from a short trip, only to find my laptop wiped, my servers locked, and every single password changed. No note. No call. Just a message on my backup account. It's all gone, Brian. You'll figure something out. You always do. That message hit harder than any breach I've ever investigated. She didn't just leave. She erased me. Worse, the system she locked me out of, I built it. Line by line. Back end to front end. That software was mine. And somehow, she took it. At first, I thought maybe it was some mistake, maybe a server crash, or a miscommunication. But the deeper I dug, the clearer it became. Melissa hadn't just walked away from the marriage. She'd hijacked our company, transferred assets, and taken full control of the one thing I thought no one could touch, my code. I know how this sounds. Like a bad Netflix plot. But every line you hear in this story, it's real. I've fought off Russian hackers, plugged zero-day vulnerabilities, and protected billion-dollar infrastructures. But nothing prepared me for what she did next. I wasn't ready. But I learned. And in the end, she changed the passwords. But she forgot one simple thing. I wrote the software. What did their life look like before it all fell apart? Who was Melissa before the betrayal? What led to the moment she turned? She changed all the passwords when she left. I wrote the software. You know, it's easy to look back now and say, the signs were there. But when you're living inside the story, you never really see the cracks forming. Until the whole thing falls apart. I met Melissa at a tech conference in San Diego. I was speaking on cybersecurity frameworks, and she was presenting a design case study on how poor UI kills great ideas. She called my slides ugly. I said her font choices were basic. And somehow, we ended up having dinner that night. From day one, we clicked. She was fire, I was structure. She dreamed fast, I thought slow. But in that chaos, we made something balanced. Something that felt real. We moved in together after 6 months. Launched our first app after 9. It wasn't fancy, just a mental health journaling tool, but it got traction. Not a lot of money, but enough to make us believe this thing could work. The long nights coding side by side, Chinese takeout containers piling up, her head resting on my shoulder while we debugged. Those were the best days of my life. Simple. Honest. Full of potential. We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony. Just close friends, family, and a whole lot of engineers who couldn't stop checking their email. Melissa wore this off-white jumpsuit instead of a dress. She said she hated tradition. I didn't care. She looked like freedom to me. That first year of marriage? Beautiful chaos. We launched NeuroSync, a productivity and mental health dashboard we designed to sync with wearables. It pulled heart rate, sleep data, stress indicators, and gave users real-time feedback on when to slow down, when to breathe, when to move. People loved it. Investors noticed. We closed our first round with a local VC firm in Austin. I remember popping a cheap bottle of champagne on our apartment balcony. Melissa cried. She kept saying, "We did it, Bree. We really did it." I thought, this is it. We're set. My forever was here. But slowly, things changed. It started with little things. She stopped joining stand-ups with the team. Said she was too drained. She started taking weekend, mental resets, at this wellness retreat 2 hours outside the city. At first, I supported it. She worked hard. She deserved breaks. But then the breaks became habits. The team started complaining, deliverables were late, Figma boards were untouched, updates slowed. She didn't seem to care. She started going to therapy. Said she needed to process old trauma. Again, I supported her. Booked the sessions, drove her there sometimes. But somewhere in those quiet moments, I noticed the shift. The way she'd look at me, not angry, not cold, just distant. Like I was part of a world she no longer wanted to be in. Then came the locked phone. The constant notifications from unknown contacts. New email accounts. Weird financial transactions I couldn't place. Money moving into wallets I didn't recognize. Cryptic, business expenses on our shared account. I'd ask gently, "Hey, what's this $4,800 transfer?" And she'd brush it off. "It's just vendor stuff. You wouldn't get it." We used to sit and review code together. Now, she'd close her laptop the second I entered the room. She stopped calling me love. Then she stopped calling me anything. Just silence. Or quick nods. Like I was a roommate in her space. I remember one night, we were sitting on the couch, watching reruns of The Office. She laughed at something Jim said. And I thought, for a second, maybe we're okay. But then I looked over and saw she was texting someone. Smiling, typing fast, blushing. Like a version of her I hadn't seen in months. She told me it was a meme from her friend Kate. But her phone screen said, "Cameron Retreat." I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Filed it away. That was the beginning of the end. But I didn't want to admit it. Because when you built a life, when you coded dreams together, funded companies, shared passwords, toothbrushes, hospital visits, and hackathons, you don't want to believe the person lying next to you is already gone. I told myself she was just burned out. That maybe we'd go on a vacation. Reconnect. Recharge. But the truth was, she wasn't just tired of the work. She was tired of me. And somewhere deep down, I knew. What happens when suspicion turns into silent observation? What exactly was Melissa doing behind the scenes? And how did Brian begin to uncover the truth? They say betrayal doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow leak, not a bomb. And when you're used to debugging systems, you learn to watch for the tiniest signs. That's exactly what I did. I stopped asking questions. Stopped confronting. Started watching. The first thing I noticed? Melissa had stopped using our shared GitHub. No commits in weeks. But code was showing up in another repo, under a different handle. I traced it to a private Bitbucket account. Not hers. Not mine. The name on the account? Camwell's Dev. Remember Cameron? The guy from the retreat? I had a feeling. One night while she was out, supposedly at a yoga thing, I booted up her old MacBook. She hadn't used it in months. It was dusty and slow, but she'd left her old login active. Inside, a development log. Cloned branches from our original Neurasync repo. Only, the name was different now. MindMesh. Same features. Same backend. Slightly different UI. Just enough to feel new. She was copying our system. Polishing it. Rebranding it. All while telling me she was taking space to heal. And that wasn't all. I checked our shared business accounts. Transactions that used to go to software vendors, now being funneled into a shell LLC. Guess what the company was called? MindMesh Innovations LLC. Registered 3 months ago. By Melissa Carter. And co-signed by, you guessed it, Cameron Wells. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because you don't shut down a virus the second you spot it. You let it run, track it, understand its pattern. So I got quiet. Played supportive. Told her to take all the time you need. Bought her flowers. Cooked dinner. All the while, I was tracing every move she made. I installed a silent keylogger on the desktop she occasionally used. Encrypted it so deep it'd take NSA-grade software to detect. And in less than 48 hours, I had full access to her messaging platforms. That's when it got real. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to erase me, personally and professionally. I read chats between her and Cameron. Jokes about how Brian's still in the dark. Comments like, once I roll out the new version, I'll kill the original servers. He'll be locked out before he even notices. She even called me a socially oblivious control freak. Said I wouldn't last a month without her. I remember just staring at the screen. Heart pounding. Not angry. Not sad. Just cold. Because in that moment, something in me shut off. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a full-blown digital ambush. She was trying to bury me with my own code. And I couldn't help but think. I taught her everything. How to run servers. How to secure credentials. How to build a startup from scratch. I showed her the ropes. And now, she was using them to tie the noose. Still, I said nothing. I backed up everything. Screenshots. Transaction logs. IP traces. Duplicated every piece of code she copied, timestamped it all, saved it to an offline drive, and stored it in a separate jurisdiction with my attorney. Then I checked the final piece. Our production servers. She hadn't touched them yet. She was waiting. Probably for the weekend I was scheduled to speak at DEF CON, an annual security conference in Vegas. That's when she'd strike. I knew it. She thought I'd be too distracted, or too far away, to notice. But I was already 5 moves ahead. Still, I needed confirmation. The smoking gun. And I got it. One night, her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. 2:07 a.m. A Slack notification. The preview message? All passwords updated. He's officially locked out. I didn't even blink. Just opened my laptop, ran the script I'd written months ago. A deep crawl that logged every change made to our servers in real time. And there it was. Root access revoked. Admin privileges reassigned. Brian Carter email removed from core systems. She did it. She actually did it. She thought I'd wake up the next morning, try to log in, and panic. But I didn't panic. Because panic is for people who don't prepare. And I had prepared. Because while she'd been busy changing passwords, I'd been quietly writing the end of her story. What exactly was the final straw? What moment made Brian absolutely sure it was time to fight back? What was the betrayal that sealed it all, They say there's always a moment. A single point in time when everything becomes clear. When denial turns into decision. For me, it came quietly. No shouting. No fireworks. Just clarity. It was the Sunday before my DEF CON talk. Melissa said she was going on a 48-hour silence retreat. No phone, no Wi-Fi, total disconnect. She even kissed me on the cheek before she left. Like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't already holding the knife. I waited until her car left the driveway, booted up my decoy system, and checked the clone logs. At exactly 2:18 p.m., while she was off the grid, an IP from a private VPN logged into our AWS server with her new root credentials and shut down the primary data channel. And then, something strange. A request pinged from our Stripe billing gateway. It wasn't a customer query. It was a mass export of financials, everything since launch. Invoices, payment histories, vendor info, even internal salary structures. She was trying to gut the company in broad daylight. But that wasn't what broke me. What broke me was the email. I never would have seen it if she hadn't accidentally left her Gmail open in an archive browser session. And right there, under drafts, was a message she had written but never sent. Subject line: Exit strategy, post Brian. The message was short, cold, like a CEO writing a press release after firing a founder. Once we finalize the rebrand, I'll push Brian out. Frame it as burnout. He won't fight it. He hates conflict. We'll use my narrative, not his. He's brilliant, but not built for the next phase. It's time for evolution. Frame it as burnout. Like I was some obsolete module in the code. Something to patch over. That's when I snapped. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I just sat there, staring at the screen. And a thought repeated in my head over and over. She doesn't think I'll fight back. That was her biggest mistake. Because I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to chase her into some dramatic confrontation. No. I was going to do what I do best. Strategize. And when the time was right, I'd show her exactly what happens when you try to erase a man who wrote the system. How does Brian begin preparing? What tools does he quietly deploy? What's his first move in a digital war she never saw coming? After that email draft, I knew one thing for sure. She thought she won. And that was the edge I needed. Because when someone thinks they've already beaten you, they stop checking their blind spots. I had 3 goals. Preserve the truth, protect my creation, and expose her without ever raising my voice. First, I went deep into my backup drives. Years ago, I created a founder's copy of every major code build. Each version was timestamped, digitally signed, and stored offline. Specifically in a cold storage vault connected to a law firm I'd worked with during our initial patent discussions. That law firm still owed me a favor. I called their senior partner, Judith, and said one sentence. It's time to enforce Creators' Rights Clause 4B. She didn't even hesitate. Told me to send the logs, credentials, and a notarized affidavit of origin. Within 48 hours, a cease and desist packet would be prepped, airtight. Melissa and Cameron wouldn't see it coming. But I didn't stop there. I knew courts don't care about feelings. They care about timelines and proof. So I reconstructed everything. Her IP logs, the GitHub forks, email metadata, cloud server event trails. Each file was organized with UTC timestamps, file hashes, and screenshots of code comparisons. I hired a digital forensics expert named Troy, former FBI contractor. Paid him upfront to verify and authenticate every trace. His report alone was 67 pages long. His conclusion? This is textbook code theft and malicious IP sabotage. Exactly what I needed. Let her walk into the trap. The DEF CON conference was coming up. Melissa assumed I'd be offline for 4 days. I made sure she believed that. I posted a fake Instagram story of me in Vegas. Even had an old friend tag me at a hotel bar. But I was back home, 2 hours away, watching her in real time. And then, she took the bait. Friday, for 23 p.m., she triggered the MindMesh launch email. It was sent to over 800 of our past clients and potential investors. The subject line? Welcome to the future of neural optimization, introducing MindMesh. Inside? The same damn pitch deck I'd written 2 years ago. Just with her face slapped over mine. She didn't even change the slide transitions. Legal strike. The moment that email hit inboxes, my attorney pressed send. A full legal complaint and cease and desist packet went to her, Cameron, the LLC, our former shared business bank, and every investor she just emailed. Attached were evidence logs, patent filings, code timestamps, Troy's forensic report, and a 72-hour injunction notice. I didn't say a word to her. Just let it all land. Trigger the final lockout. 2 hours later, Melissa tried logging into the production server. But it was too late. I'd already rerouted all DNS entries, changed the hosting infrastructure, and encrypted the API keys behind 2 levels of quantum-safe firewalls. Her login attempt? Denied. Her backup plan? Cameron's test server, which I had already cloned, scanned, and reported to AWS under IP infringement. That server was taken offline within 30 minutes. She tried to log into our shared banking portal. Account frozen. Tried to message Stripe support. Rep replied, "We've been notified of an ongoing IP dispute. Your access is suspended pending legal review." She just nuked herself. That night, she called me. Not texted. Called. First time in weeks. I didn't answer. Let it go to voicemail. Her voice, once smug, now cracked. "Brian, what the hell are you doing? You're running everything. This was supposed to be mine too. I built it with you. Just, can we talk?" I didn't respond. Because this wasn't about talking anymore. This was about truth. And truth was now documented, notarized, and in motion. What happens when Melissa is forced to face the truth, publicly and legally? What's Brian's final play in court? And what's the moment that silences everyone? Melissa always believed she was smarter than me. Smoother. More charismatic. She could talk her way into anything, and out of everything. But in court? Facts don't stutter. It was a bright Monday morning when we entered the courtroom. Federal IP Dispute Tribunal. No jury. Just a judge. And 2 very expensive legal teams. Melissa showed up in a sleek navy suit. Her lawyer looked like he belonged in a Netflix thriller. Sharp jawline, even sharper tongue. They smiled confidently. Until the evidence file dropped on the desk. My team didn't open with accusations. We opened with timestamps, source code comparisons, emails, text threads, signed IP agreements from our initial formation date, and most importantly, the forensic audit by Troy. It was quiet as we walked the judge through the cloned backend systems, the alter credentials, and the MindMesh rebrand folder, which was literally copied from a shared Google Drive we both used. Her lawyer tried to object, tried to claim joint development. But then we played the audio. See, months ago, Melissa had made a Zoom call to Cameron. She thought she ended the recording. She didn't. In the call, she said, "Once I have the passwords, I'll lock Brian out and clean the shell. He's too slow to see it coming." The moment those words played in court, I watched the judge lean back in his chair. Melissa turned pale. That one sentence undid months of scheming. After 2 days of hearings and cross-examination, the ruling came down. Melissa had intentionally violated IP law. She had knowingly altered access to shared digital assets. She had sent a public launch email using stolen code. All assets under MindMesh were to be returned to me. Her LLC was to be dissolved. And she was personally fined for damages and legal fees. Cameron was named as a co-conspirator, barred from any tech ventures involving my IP for 5 years. Melissa didn't speak. Not once. She just stared down at the table. The same table where she once laughed with me, dreamed with me, planned the future. Now, she sat defeated, not because I yelled, but because I never had to. Char decreasing the public fallout. Word spread fast. A few tech blogs picked up the story. Startup co-founder loses IP lawsuit after stealing code from ex-husband. But I didn't comment. I didn't post. Didn't gloat. Didn't even tell mutual friends. I just let the truth sit in silence. That silence was louder than anything I could have said. A week after the ruling, I saw her one last time. Not in person, on LinkedIn. Her job title had changed to consultant. No company listed. No endorsements. Just a quiet, empty profile. That was her real punishment. Not the money, not the lawsuit, but the loss of the narrative. She tried to rewrite the story, but I had the original code. And when push came to shove, that's what held up in court. Aftermath, the lesson, the life beyond? This is where Brian reflects, finds peace, and delivers the emotional closing punch for your audience. A perfect CTA moment, too. It's been 9 months since that courtroom silence. People always ask, "Did you feel happy when you won? Was it worth the pain?" And the truth is, winning wasn't joy. It was closure. Because I didn't build the company for revenge. I built it to survive what she tried to destroy. After everything settled, I moved out of the city. Found a quiet home up in the Oregon woods, not far from the coast. I kept the essentials: a laptop, my dog Max, and a black notebook with ideas that no one's seen yet. I wake up to silence now. Birds, wind, and the occasional cracking of pine in the fire pit. Some nights, I walk out under the stars and realize, for the first time in years, I'm not in defense mode. I'm just living. MindMesh? It never launched under that name. But the platform, the real version, lives on as a secure neurological analytics suite under a different brand. We signed our first defense contract 3 weeks ago. Quiet deal. 7 figures. Funny thing? It still runs on the original logic I wrote on Melissa's birthday. Back when I thought we were building a life together. Turns out I was. Just not with her. If you're watching this, and you've been betrayed, locked out, cast aside, erased from your own creation, don't burn down everything. Document. Strategize. Wait. And rise. Because revenge doesn't mean screaming. Sometimes, it just means surviving louder. She took the passwords. Tried to lock me out of my own world. But she forgot. I wrote the software. Not just the code. The discipline. The pain tolerance. The blueprint of how to rebuild after collapse. You can't reset a man who built the system you stole. She walked out with the passwords. But I kept the master key. If this story hit you, if you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, speech balloon, drop a comment. Tell your story. Repeat button, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Direct hit, and remember, silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it's just the sound of a comeback loading.